Welcome to News9 Mediaverse, and I am Kartikeya Sharma, and you are watching To The Point. And today we are going to debate whether the government is seriously considering bringing Women Reservation Bill. Though it is officially not part of the agenda, but after decades, Women's Reservation Bill definitely can make a comeback in Parliament. Cabinet can decide today to pass the bill. The last time it was introduced in the House was when UPA 2 was in power and Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister. The Cabinet today is expected to make a crucial decision in this regard. Let me tell you why the bill failed to go to Lok Sabha when it was passed in 2010 in Rajya Sabha. And that's a very, very long story. Women Reservation Bill, UPA 2 did not enjoy simple majority in Lok Sabha. Bill was passed in Rajya Sabha. It made UPA allies very bitter. Regional parties wanted caste-based women reservation. Representation of women is low in Parliament. That's part one. SP in 2010 demanded 33% quota for backward caste within the 33% quota in women's quota. Women currently account for less than 15% members of Lok Sabha. At present, 78 members in Lok Sabha are women. United Front first presented the bill in 1996. In 1996, Deve Gowda was the Prime Minister when it happened. Atal Bihari Vajpayee also presented the bill. Now, government will need to resolve the caste angle. Opposition may demand to study the bill. The bill can be sent to the standing committee. Women reservation bill or women reservation exists at the panchayat level, but as a bill, it has not been cleared from the Parliament for Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Panchayati Raj Bill was passed during Rajiv Gandhi's tenure. Now, let's play out some important bites related to Women Reservation Bill.
Actually, it is the brainchild of Indian National Congress and UPA. We given 50% of women reservation in local parliament, that is local bodies. So we are totally for women reservation. At least, if they have any sincerity in their mind, they should pass the women reservation bill in this session. Our LOP told in the Rajya Sabha also this thing, same thing.
Women reservation bill पे मेरा ख्याल है सबसे पहले हमारी नेता आया नेत्री ममता बनर्जी ने ही आवाज उठाई थी और काफी हंगामा हुआ था. उसके बाद जिस बार ये चर्चा हुई थी सदन में मैं भी मौजूद था. आप तमाम लोगों को पता है किन कारणों से या किन लोगों की वजह से वो बिल सार्थक नहीं हुआ, वो बिल आखिर अपने मुकाम तक नहीं पहुंच सका. लेकिन इस बार हो रही है, इसकी खबर सुनी है हमने. लेकिन मैं इतना कहना चाहता हूँ कि विशेष सत्र है कि तथाकथित विशेष सत्र है, ये सारे.
मुझे लगता है कि जो राज्यसभा में बिल पारित करने के मसला में मैडम सोनिया गांधी को तो क्रेडिट मिलना ही चाहिए. उसके बाद 16 सालों में कांग्रेस पार्टी बिल्कुल इस मुद्दे को भूल गई है. जो जब वो पावर में थे, बाद में मोदी जी पावर में आए, तो 16 साल से उन्होंने बात भी नहीं उठाया. ये इतने हद तक उसको इस इश्यू को नेग्लेक्ट किया कि 2019 मैनिफेस्टो में उन्होंने विमेंस रिजर्वेशन के बारे में एक छोटा सेंटेंस भी उन्होंने नहीं लिखा. और अब बोल रहे कि हम सीरियस है, हमारी ब्रेन चाइल्ड है, तो बिल्कुल गलत बोल रहे. वो ब्रेन चाइल्ड देवेगौड़ा जी का था. उस समय यूनाइटेड नेशंस वगैरह के जो रिपोर्ट्स आए थे, उसके बाद ये इनिशिएटिव देवेगौड़ा जी ने उस समय लिया था.
So the issue is what is going to happen. I am joined by senior journalist Smita Gupta. Very warm welcome to you on my show To The Point. I am joined by my input editor Brijesh Pandey and my news editor Pankaj Mishra. Coming to you, Smita, 2010, a very momentous night when the bill was passed, the marshals were deployed, people had to be thrown out. Why has government decided to float this? 6:30, the cabinet has started. Sources are saying that there might be a bill other than what has been listed. So the list is different from the other bills. It also says that. Why have they come back to Women Reservation Bill? Why not something like UCC, which has been part of the agenda? They had not spoken about this bill for a pretty long time.
Well, I think the obvious reason is that the UCC is a much more contentious bill, and it would create a lot of problems. But whereas the Women's Reservation Bill, this is a straight appeal to women who, form 50% of the electorate and who in successive elections have been voting in larger and larger numbers. However, I would be very interested to know whether the bill that we presume, I mean, this is all based on presumption that the cabinet is discussing the women's reservation bill right as we speak, is in the form that it was envisaged. It was envisaged as 1/3 of the parliament and of the state legislatures would be set aside for women. Is it going to remain that, or is it going to be something different? If it is the same, then the same question of the identity-based parties, Samajwadi Party, Rashtriya Janata Dal, and many other parties will again raise the issue of whether there shouldn't be a quota within a quota. But let me tell you that while these parties have been very upfront in their opposition and explained why they don't want the bill in the form that we have seen it so far, the rest of the parties, the Congress party, the BJP and the left parties, as far as I know, ever since Mr. Deve Gowda brought the first bill in 1996, have all officially claimed that they were for the bill. If they were for the bill, they were always in a majority, BJP plus Congress plus left parties. How is it that the bill has not got passed? It's I think across the board, the Samajwadi and RJD and parties like that have expressed their opposition openly, and they've given a reason. These other political parties have been very smart. They have never expressed their opposition openly. They all keep saying, oh, why didn't the Congress do it when it was in power? Oh, why doesn't the BJP do now that it's in power, etc. But the fact is that these three parties, all through these years, none of them has opposed the women's reservation bill. Why is the women's reservation bill so contentious in Parliament? It is because it would mean a transfer, it would mean a change in the power dynamic in Parliament, in our legislatures, from men having the upper hand. I mean, nobody wants to give up power. So if we were actually to set aside...
Is Prime Minister trying to set the template for forthcoming elections? BJP very quickly changes goalposts.
That's what I said at the outset. I said at the outset that women do account for half the voting population, and over the years we have seen that the voting population has that women voters are voting in increasing numbers, and therefore this is of course an appeal to the, women voters. So that I said at the very outset, and that is what the reason perhaps why
I just broaden it. Brijesh, we have done a constant coverage on Manipur for last 120 days, and I have realized that obviously it's like saying what has been stated earlier. Caste triumphs over gender, but even in place like Manipur, ethnicity has triumphed over gender. If you look at the frontal mobilization against each community, women are at forefront. Myra Paibis, it's a women-led organization which is so viciously opposed to the Kuki interest, and then you have Kuki women, opposed to the Maitis. So it is obvious that in our society, your ethnic identity or your primordial identity, if I have to subsume both ethnicity and caste in it, they prevail over the concept, the so-called the Western concept of gender as one unique identity.
Well, Kartikeya, before answering that, I will say that, the reason where we are presuming that, this is the women reservation bill is what the cabinet intends to pass. The reason is that it is in sync or line with the BJP, especially Prime Minister Narendra Modi's policy of making a reach out to the 50% electorate. Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao was one step in that direction. Toilets inside your house so that the honor of the women and all was another step in this direction. And if they feel that that UCC and all they are good bill, they are not worried about the kind of commotion that UCC is going to cause. That's a bill which is sacrosanct to their understanding of how things are supposed to be. So they are not worried about the commotion. They have absolute majority in Lok Sabha. They have a workable functional majority. They can get a functional majority in the Rajya Sabha. They are not worried about that. I think this particular bill, if they are able to get it passed, it will be part of history, you know, and it will be a massive outreach to the 50% voters of this country. You know, the Prime Minister can say, if this is the bill which we are talking about gets passed in the cabinet, the Prime Minister can say that, you know, that ever since he has become the Prime Minister, you know, like there is an Act East policy, massive Northeast outreach. He will say that from day one we have been working towards a bettering life of our mothers and sisters, and this bill is in continuation with what we have been saying it for a while long.
What, Pankaj, a lot of people, a lot of politicians have been able to achieve this despite going in for women reservation. Look at Nitish Kumar, look at Jayalalitha, they have cultivated women constituency despite going into reservation, and they created strong constituencies.
Well, indeed, see, as far as the lower level politics is concerned, Kartikeya, I would say yes, at the panchayat level also we have seen the parity as far as the allocation of or representation of women is concerned. But having said that, if you look at the bigger picture, I would say personally that the Indian politics here looks a bit more patriarchal. Why I say so? Because, say, 1998, Atal Bihari Vajpayee introduces it, but the bill faces a lot of flack, doesn't make the cut. Again, by 2010, when it is passed in the Rajya Sabha, Congress in power, yet till 2014 it was there, it could not do much about it, never came into the Lok Sabha. Then comes the BJP. Now, this connect, what
no one represents poor Devegowda, 1996. You know?
Well, I mean, at least the claim was made there, we heard. But having said that, the action was, shifted to 1998 and then 2010. As Brijesh was mentioning, as far as the role of BJP to bring it back, the 2014 manifesto, the 2019 manifesto, both of them would mention that yes, we are the proponents, we will push this women's reservation bill. Now, I would say around 9 years down the line, if this special session is about women's reservation bill, then I think it's a clincher.
I'm sorry to cut you, just one line, and Kartikeya, if you want to use the term historic, be rest assured that if women reservation bill get passed,
I think
it will be the real testimony to the word
Let me be the devil's advocate here, Smita. You know, a lot of historic bills were passed by Rajiv Gandhi. You know, he reduced the voting age to 18, and then he introduced Panchayati Raj bill in which there was 33% reservation, and then he went on to lose the elections.
No, so what are you suggesting, that if he were to pass the women's bill?
No, I'm saying that it doesn't really guarantee that you
but
win
he
the
was walked
elections.
down by Bofors also.
Well, I would like to say something, which, first of all, we don't know in what form this bill is going to come, because I have been hearing, my sources may be completely wrong, that this bill is actually to, deal with a different issue altogether, which is that we expect that in this new parliament, there will be delimitation sooner or later to fill up the seats. So it is likely that these seats will not be, in the way we had envisaged, that there would be a 33%.
I read about it, multiple members getting elected from single constituency, something like that.
So that is what I have been hearing for the last 1 year.
Can you just elaborate on that? Not many people would know about that. Can you just elaborate on this?
It means that the extra seats that we are going to get after delimitation itself is a very contentious issue, as we know, because since it goes by population, the number of seats in the northern half of India will increase at the expense of the, southern half. And the southern half feels that they have controlled population, etc. So that in itself is a very contentious issue. But if the seats that are required as per the population, the increase in the number of seats, those seats will all be women's seats. How they will configure that, I don't know, but it is a way of telling the men that the seats that you have, you can hang on to them. You don't have to share your seats with the women. I think that is the logic that will be presented to them. For the women, it will be like second best, because you are, will be competing amongst yourselves, which is not exactly what I think women who have been fighting for this bill wanted. But I could be wrong, but this is one thing that I've been hearing very strongly for about a year.
But I think it's better than nothing. The women in Lok Sabha are less than 15%, women in Rajya Sabha are less than 14%. So at least something will happen, you'll have more voices in both the houses.
So, I mean, I don't know how people will receive it. I don't even know the exact formulation. But the formulation is that this delimitation, the increase in number of seats will be given to the women in some way so that it fulfills the 33%. But at the same time, the people who would have to otherwise have had to give up their seats, because basically this is about power. Why don't people want this 33% reservation? It's not about caste, because if you look at the caste breakup in the Lok Sabha, or you will see that they have more than 27.5% OBCs already without any reservation. And that is because that is when a political party goes for elections, whether they have to have a woman candidate or a male candidate, they are simply going to look at the caste configuration of the constituency. They are not going to be so stupid that they will just get, upper caste women. Because that was the fear, that padkati auratein aayengi, short haired, upper caste women. That cannot happen. Where there was a backward caste man appearing, being chosen as a candidate, there will be a backward caste woman. So I don't think that the caste argument actually plays, has any merit to it, though it has been used. The main thing is they don't want the power going from men to women gradually. Because if you look, give me a minute more, if you look at the panchayats, in many cases, it began with 33%, but now in many states, especially take Karnataka, where panchayati reservation came first, women constitute more than almost 50%. Of the panchayat seats are held by them. They are not only winning their own seats, they are winning general seats as well.
Correct.
So it is about this power. It's eventually it's about power. Now, how this is presented, I don't know.
I think there was I think it was very fairly captured by this OTT platform, Panchayat.
Yes,
and what was the what was the word Panchayat Pati?
Pradhanji, they used to call him, but he was
Pradhanpati. So it very fairly captured the Indian reality. But what will stop opposition from not demanding that it be sent to the select committee or the standing committee? Because at least the bills need to be studied. You can pass the bill in the cabinet. Pankaj, Brijesh, you want to come?
No. It may, but the fact is that the opposition has already started building a tempo that, that they are requesting the government to, to bring the bill.
Yes, I was surprised that Venugopal said just pass the bill.
When you say that, when your senior leaders say that you introduce the bill and we will see to it, it's a bill by the Congress, it's a bill which was introduced by the UPA, for them to say that no, first send it to select committee, because everybody knows what sending a bill to select committee means. So I don't think that the BJP will, Congress will, after openly declaring, publicly declaring support for it, in fact rather daring the government to bring the bill,
fair enough,
to go back on their word.
Smita, you want to come in?
Caveat to that, if provided it is in the form that it was earlier, if it is a completely new bill, then obviously it will have to go to a committee.
Absolutely. If it's in a completely new avatar, then it's a genuine demand that the bill has to go to a standing committee or a select committee for the parliamentarians to study it. But there's a third aspect. Even BJP collaborated with Congress party. It was not passed like that in Rajya Sabha. BJP voted for the bill. Regional parties had an issue. If the bill Pankaj is introduced in previous avatar, what stops the regional parties from taking a different position across NDA and the so-called India?
Well, see, I would say, you are absolutely right when you talk about the scenario in 2010 when Samajwadi Party...
And I have not even accounted for the position which DMK, ADMK, YSRCP, BRS, Shiv Sena, the Gowda's party, these regional parties BJD will take. Generally when we talk about regional party, it becomes a very North India centric debate. We'll go to Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh. There's the plethora of parties down south,
which were opposed
down
to it.
India, and they have their own view.
Absolutely. And you know what, Kartikeya, you're right. And one common thread that joins all the regional parties from down south to Uttar Pradesh and Bihar is the caste factor. Now, why a Samajwadi Party or an RJD would be the vehement opposers of this bill right from 1996, as we heard, till 2010, Even they tore, RJD members in 1998 tore the bill into pieces in the parliament itself. Why was so? Because the caste factor comes into play, and Uttar Pradesh, for that matter, Bihar for that matter, at that time, to send their representatives into the Lok Sabha, into Rajya Sabha, would have called for caste-based reservations once again. So, Samajwadi Party, Brijesh, at that time when Parkati comment came up, I mean, they were clear that we need a 33% reservation within the 33% reservation, and that 33% was they were talking about for the lower caste, the backward classes also. So that was another layer attached to it. But now things have changed, and trust me, run up to 2024, obviously, I think there is all likelihood the whatever form the bill comes into picture, if at all it does, I'm sure the standing committee would be coming up with recommendations before the elections.
Smita, you wanted to comment?
No, this whole thing, I want to again repeat it. This whole thing that caste-based parties opposed the bill because they wanted...
At that time.
It is not true. Even at that time, at that time, I remember a Yadav MP from the RJD, he told me, he said, just sit and count the number of OBC MPs that we already have. And it was well over 27.5%. So my point is that it was just something to fool the public because nobody wanted to do the math. And as I said, a political party that wants to field a Yadav or Kurmi in an election, a male Kurmi or if he has to field a woman, he will do it from the same community because the votes depend on that. They won't just pull out some woman. So which brings me to my first point, that this is about power, a power shift. So whether it is gender, whether it is caste, it's very, very important. And the reason why the Panchayati Raj bills got passed quickly is because those who passed the bill were not going to lose anything. It was the parliament that passed that bill. So they were not going to contest panchayat seats. So that's why it went through so smoothly. Whereas this bill has, and we must understand this, that this is about a transfer of power, and that once it becomes 33%, it is bound to go up.
Okay.
Right.
Brijesh, do you think that the bill, if it comes into the new avatar, the government will be able to create consensus in the next 4 days?
Well, I think the government has numbers. The government has numbers, and it's not that the government. See, I mean, in previous avatar, the governments were heavily dependent.
Bill needs to be passed in both the houses.
I know. But what I'm trying to say is that has there any bill of the BJP which has fallen in Rajya Sabha if they wanted to get it through? No, they don't. So they have
You're saying that this bill is no different from any other bill.
See, the point is, what I'm trying to say is that what has changed is the arithmetic of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. The arithmetic of Rajya Sabha is that at that point of time, JDU, RJD, Samajwadi Party were calling the shots. They had the numerics, and UPA 1, UPA 2 were not in power with absolute majority. Same was the case with Devagowda. Same was the case with Vajpayee. So all the time, majority of the time when the bill was introduced in the parliament, the government of the day didn't have brute majority. So they were dependent on 50 other regional parties. Now the government is brute majority. In Lok Sabha, it has brute majority. It doesn't matter whether any other party comes in. I don't see them coming with this bill without taking the rest of the smaller parties into account. And in Rajya Sabha also, I think if they're serious about it, they will definitely get the number. And it will be interesting to see if the Congress opposes that, because Congress has publicly said that voiced their support for the bill.
Smita, yes.
Until unless it has something very contentious.
I want to contest this business about brute majority. It is true that in the past, no political party has had a brute majority. But on paper, in public, the Congress, the BJP and the left have, even though they may not have been part of the same combination, have all stated publicly that they were supporting this bill. And yet the bill has not got passed.
Well,
why?
You see, the point is the brute majority factor comes into play.
Brute majority.
Hear me out. Ma'am, I heard you. I heard you.
BJP could have supported the Congress.
Hear me out. I mean, there were three different parties coming together and voicing their support is completely different from a BJP which has 300 plus on its own. And the dynamics have changed completely. Are you trying to say that 300 plus MPs are going to vote for somebody else if Prime Minister Narendra Modi gets it? Therein the brute majority factor comes in.
I'm saying that the reason for the opposition to the thing is actually widespread. It is because in the case of the BJP, the Congress and the left, politically, that was an official stand that they took, was that they were supporting the bill. Yet, the three of them could not come together for all these years to
Ma'am, I agree with you, but what I'm trying to say is that, with three different parties,
BJP
whatever they want to state publicly,
the BJP will be on test.
Whatever they say on publicly or in private is completely different from one party having more than 300 plus seats in Lok Sabha.
I agree.
And if one party which has 300 plus MPs in Lok Sabha, do you see that any 5-10 MPs will vote against their own party, especially in a kind of the strong leadership or the centralized leadership which the BJP has?
No.
That is what I meant by brute majority.
I'm not suggesting that.
That is what I meant by brute majority.
I think there's another thing. It's a constitutional amendment bill, and in this, I'll rephrase it. BJP does not need help in Lok Sabha. Congress never required big help in Rajya Sabha. Now, BJP doesn't need help in Lok Sabha, but it does need help in Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha is complicated because regional parties will definitely want to have its say. They would also like to share the pound of flesh. They would like to reflect in the glory that they participated in the women reservation bill. Do you think that in case it comes, the passage is going to be extremely smooth, Pankaj, in Rajya Sabha? Because it's a constitutional amendment bill.
Absolutely.
It's not going to pass by simple majority.
No, definitely the test obviously of the bill stays in the upper house of the parliament, and the regional parties obviously now the dynamics, talking about once again the times that have changed. Personally, what I feel, talking about say Congress to begin with, not a regional party, but yes, 2022, not far away, when Priyanka Gandhi clearly mentioned that if you vote Congress in power in Uttar Pradesh, they will give 25% reservation to women representatives, to women MLAs in the assembly. So that was one precursor, and we have seen Congress taking it to the next level. Now, talking about a DMK, talking about a BRS, or for that matter, YSRCP, why not? We see, as far as the electoral SOPs are concerned, free tickets to women, given all sorts of, I would say, facilities in order to, so that the state government appears to be on their side.
I'll give you a point in case, for example, BJP, which seems to have everything in control, in Nagaland, Nefario passed a resolution in assembly. He said that we are opposed to UCC. So do you expect regional parties to behave differently when it comes to this, Pankaj?
They will definitely look at their own representation, own identity also, and see, I mean, it's not very necessary that on all aspects the party or the coalition members would respond in a similar fashion how the High Command would want them to. The state dynamics completely change, from UP to Telangana or beyond Tamil Nadu. I think the impression that this particular bill will have will be pretty much different, and hence the different response.
I think, Kartikeya, what the government would want is they're like going by their 24/7 election machinery and going by their, trying to always perpetually searching for an option to score over the Congress party. I think if the Congress party goes back, and if there's if there's a major contention or something which the Congress doesn't like, then that's a different story altogether. But if the bill is more or less what the UP had introduced, I think it'll be very difficult for Congress to back out after publicly voicing or saying that that they support bill. If they do, I'm not saying that it will have the requisite number in the Rajya Sabha, but if they do, then it gives the BJP a stick to beat the Congress with the fact that that we brought it. The Congress is in a position. The Congress leadership has said so many things, and yet they are not allowing the bill to pass. So I think it will have a potential of putting Congress in a slightly embarrassing position. I don't know how long the embarrassment will last and all, but I think going by the way politics is functioning right now, there are various issues in which we felt that the entire opposition will be on one side, but all of a sudden you see convenient walkouts, you see convenient sidings of several regional parties with the BJP, because usually they side with the ruling majority. So I don't think that the government would not have done its math before coming up with something.
Obviously, government must have done its part, but Smita, this it also reflects one tendency, not to pre-discuss important bills. If you recall the debate on forest bill, which was piloted by Sandeep Dixit in Lok Sabha, or if you look at the OBC reservation bill when Arjun Singh was the minister, or even look at the Lokpal bill, Jaitley ji last minute decided he wants to have a separate select committee, and then ultimately there was a consensus for 21 days. Bills come, they get like 370, but then there is no pre-discussion and there is no long discussion. It's like there is no time to interact with the content. If you recall, when Sumitra Mahajan was the chairman in the first tenure of UPA 1, she was handling the land bill. I still remember 5 months Jairam Ramesh had to introduce 2 amendments to get it back into shape, the way the government wanted it. She had made it different. So there is no interaction with such important subjects of late.
I agree. That is the point. I mean, already the session has started. And you're talking about a cabinet meeting happening today, and then whatever comes out of it, that will just be handed over. And then if people don't agree to it, then they'll say that, oh, you're anti this and anti that, you didn't keep your word. The point is that it is the right of every MP to see that bill. And there is a time given. I mean, it's all there, in the parliamentary rules about the length of time that the MPs should be given to take a look at, especially this is a constitution amendment bill. It's not even it requires 2/3 of those present and voting for it to get through. So, I mean,
that's the point I'm trying to make. It's a constitutional amendment bill. It's a different ball game. It's not a voice vote. A constitutional amendment bill requires you to press button, House needs to be in order. It requires a lot of things to be in place, Smita.
Yeah. I mean, the way that Article 370 was pushed, it came as a complete surprise to everybody in the House, and before they knew it, it was passed. So, anything is possible, really.
That is where the brute majority functions.
See,
just bulldoze through without caring for the numbers. And majority of the things which you talk about, Kartikeya, there is a lot of complaint and many.
But it's unparliamentary.
Absolutely.
It is unparliamentary.
So there are a lot of complaints, and rightly so. But I think this government has also decided that majority of the case studies which you pointed out,
I do feel
the governments were not in absolute power. They just want to bulldoze through without.
I do feel that the role of standing committee stands reduced.
Well, yes.
I do. You want to say something more?
No, at least time wise, please.
No, I think in the bill wise, I would remember when I would my 17 or 16 years of reporting Parliament continuously, that standing committee was where you cut your teeth in context of legislation, in terms of the meetings they had, it was such it was a learning curve, the bill would be drafted, redrafted, the objections, the notes, it's a process of filtration before it comes to the Parliament. मजे के लिए बिल नहीं जाता है. I'm sorry to use that word. There is a process in place. That is why those standing committees are. It is through standing and select committees that legislatures effects and exercise on the executive. There is no other way you can exercise that opinion on executive. It's only through standing committees. Pankaj.
Well, see, definitely the procedure, the course of how a bill would finally come into shape remains pretty clear. But yes, as far as the timing, as far as the 4-day or 5-day session is concerned, what best can be done? See, I mean, we are speaking in terms that today Cabinet brings up this bill and sends it for either to committee or for further discussions. But our point is, I mean, Kartikeya, if we take a look at it, 2014, when BJP came to power, it was the first 5 years were not about Ram Mandir or Hindutva that much. It was only in the later part, when the second tenure began for Prime Minister Modi. Likewise, they are picking up from where Atal Bihari Vajpayee left, and this is one legacy part to the almost 50% voters in an election year which we are looking at. I think there would be certain concessions, there could be changes. I mean, that remains in anticipation. What if they bring not 33% quota reservation within the 33% reservation, but maybe reduce it so that all the regional parties also.
I don't think reduce. My comment says, Sweta, I'm coming to you.
Yes.
Okay, please go ahead. You go ahead. I don't think that there will be anything less than 33%.
What I'm trying to say is, I have nothing against what the previous speaker said, that yes, there is an election coming up and they want to bring this important bill. And having announced a special session, why could the government not have given this a copy of this bill that they are planning to bring 1 week ago or 2 weeks ago to the opposition and said, this is why we are bringing this bill, created an atmosphere, reached out to the opposition and said, look, this is an important bill. It will help 50% of our population. Decision making will become more democratic if we have more women, and done it that way. What is the idea of this big surprise thing? This all the time, some, jadoo or some, something, pulling something out of a rabbit's hat. It's not proper at all.
But Smita, if the intention is shock and awe,
it
if
is
the
a
intention is
government's right
shock
to
and
bring
awe,
in a law.
if the intention is shock and awe, then
Yeah, I mean, what is this? This is not correct, because a government's right to bring in legislation is there, but it is Parliament, which consists of all the MPs of all the political parties. It's for them to pass that bill. It's not merely the government. That is something that the government must realize. That is what the Constitution says. That is what Parliament is about. Otherwise, just, it's a waste of money.
No, absolutely. I think more than that, if this was the larger issue is there was also a lot of opaqueness. I remember when the special session was announced, the media went into frenzy, Brijesh, and they said these 15 things would be taken up, and none of that happened. Also. And then people said, boss, you overread things. It was only about to enter the house on Ganesh Chaturthi. Even today, when this is happening, the most powerful sources in the government has made the entire media, including me, debate women reservation bill.
Well, I think, what this government has tried to do is that, as you said, that, it has tried to make this shock and awe some sort of a official strategy. And also there is such delight when you listen to, to politicians when they're trying to, when you say, oh, even journalists can't make a guess. As if like, it's some sort of a sin that you could guess what the government is doing. So that unpredictability is something which is being sold as virtue. So it's to the person of the day, and if the Prime Minister feels that way or the operating system feels that way, then there's nothing which anybody can say about it.
Absolutely, Brijesh, and see, this has become of late the trademark also, and once again it circles back to the thing of brute majority here, because no one is able to call out the government here. Last evening, Kartikeya, when we were finishing our evening, all party meeting had ended, and Shashi Tharoor came out of the meeting and he said, देखिए ये तो सरकार की आदत है, ये तो हमेशा last minute पे हमें बताते हैं, the 8 bills that were listed basically, and the Congress complained about that, saying कि हमें तो आज बता रहे हैं, कल से session है. So this has somehow become the trademark also. You identify governments, the working style also.
No, but I think, this is incorrect also. Sometimes, you have to say the thing, you have to say the right thing. I personally feel that by informing the opposition, you are not doing any great service. It's the job, to have an informed discussion, you need to inform the members of parliament. मतलब इसमें कोई आप you're not doing a special favor. It's like you want to have even in cabinet meetings, why do you give the proposals 24 to 48 hours in advance so that the ministers go through it? It's not a special favor you are doing. Now it's a different thing today. There's a different norm in place today. Earlier it used to be 3 days, 48 hours, 24 hours.
I think, Kartikeya, there's also this thing that, that this is the style of the person who is heading the government. If you remember, if I go by what Jaswant Singh has written in his memoir, that, that Brijesh Mishra was not even letting him have a peek at the speech which he was supposed to go, and he had to literally snatch it out of him. And then he was the person who was the most powerful minister, rather more powerful than the Prime Minister himself. It happens in every government. It happens in every government that there is one person who wields an extra constitutional authority, who feels that a particular style of governance is the only style of governance, right or wrong. So nobody is debating that.
I would just rephrase it, not extra constitutional. I would say that exercise of power in a way which I think as a journalist curtails the right of the opposition, and I would say I feel so that I have also covered parliament. I think certain procedures have been diluted. They have not been stepped aside. They have been diluted. Less bills are going to standing committees. Parliamentarians continue to complain that for example, how many times, Smita, do you recall that such a cabinet meeting has taken place and the camera has gone inside and the visuals are playing? Generally cabinet meetings were avoided during parliament session because the precedent was that you had to inform the parliament first. As a reporter, I would say, यार इस बार तो कोई cabinet की खबर नहीं है, तो Thursday में story idea दूसरा देना होगा because it's parliament. there are certain things which have changed. Anyone who has covered Parliament day in and day out would remember cabinets, one, wouldn't take place, and second, there would be no briefing because the House needs to be informed first. This is the, if correct me, Smita, if I'm incorrect, the House needs to be informed first when it sits.
Yeah, and the point is, this is not about personal style. This is about being undemocratic. Just as you pointed out in a cabinet meeting, each of the cabinet ministers were, who was going to present something, that paper would be circulated amongst his colleagues so that all his colleagues also would be able to study the proposals, So that is you take a democratic kind of approach to taking decisions. The same goes for the business of giving bills to parliamentarians a couple of days ahead so that it can be studied. You send it to the standing committee so that a larger number, more pairs of eyes can look at that bill. That is what democracy, that is at the heart of democracy.
One thing I agree with Brijesh is that the element of surprise always remains. Let me put it this way: they have decided the speakers for the central hall. Let me just read. Read out the list for our viewers. This is the list, and the surprising part. See, Uprashpati, Pradhan Mantri, then comes Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, Mallikarjun Kharge, Piyush Goyal, Menka Gandhi. She is part of the list. Then Manmohan Singh has been all been put in part of the list. So this is very surprising. Someone who is not in the system here and there becomes part of the list who is going to speak tomorrow, Pankaj.
Well, see, I mean,
isn't it surprising?
Actually, as we go to the list, Shibu Soren also finds mention there. Manmohan Singh. See, I mean, again, the surprise element, yes, it is there. It has become the hallmark, let me admit this, of this particular government. And as far as the proceedings are concerned, they are always changing. There are not very clear lines that a particular government can't behave like this. I'm surprised to know from you that cabinet meetings are not supposed to happen when the parliament is in session.
No, they're supposed to happen. No briefing is supposed to happen because House is informed first.
Exactly.
No briefing is supposed to happen because the House needs to be informed first. That's the precedent. The point I was trying to make was, as a reporter,
which is
during Parliament days, I would say Thursday ko cabinet hoti thi UP ke time, and I would say, yeah, day plan mein there has to be some other idea because there is no cabinet to cover. That it was, that's the point I was trying to convey.
No, I understand that, and that's why I'm saying it doesn't come as a surprise to me also that the government changes the rule and does it, against what the norm has been. Coming back to once again this women's reservation bill, yes, we are discussing it. Definitely, could be way off the mark.
Smita has said, I read about that story that with the large number of seats available after delimitation, the proposal where two candidates, one woman and another candidate, from one seat you have two candidates.
Right.
I think it's a possibility. There was a paper which was published, though it disappeared mysteriously from public narratives, Smita. I think that is one proposal which was there, which you had mentioned at the start of our discussion. But then, even in that context, would you think that the caste element will not come? Even if I say I think what you are telling me is correct, even then why do we say that the caste element will not come?
And Shibu Soren,
I'm not saying that the caste element will not come, because see, caste is just a fig leaf here. Because as I pointed out, if we study the number of MPs and do a caste-wise breakup, you will find that this is one place where they are represented properly. Whether they're scheduled castes, whether they're scheduled tribes, whether they're OBCs, they are represented properly in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. I don't know that much about the Rajya Sabha, but certainly in the Lok Sabha. So, but the reason why people have been opposing it, which you might find hard for it to accept, is that it would be a gradual transfer of power from men to women. And that is why the caste subject will come up again, because you need something to oppose the bill with, which sounds reasonable, but nobody actually sits down and does the math.
But it's very. But I think it suits the profile of the Prime Minister. We've had Nirmala Sitharaman in this position for such a long time, Defence and Finance Minister. I think Brijesh, that has to be given to the Prime Minister. If you look at his tenure, in context of placing women in important position,
absolutely.
He takes the credit. There is no doubt about
You
it.
have Smriti Irani, you have Sushma Swaraj before that, and
Nirmala Sitharaman.
Sitharaman holding defense, finance, and it's like
in the top 5
in the
position.
top 5 position. Absolutely.
After a long time.
That's why I'm saying that if it is
One
women,
minute, if I may say so, please don't compare Sushma Swaraj with the others. Sushma Swaraj was going to be she was the leader of the opposition. She
ma'am,
was
I'm not comparing anything with anybody. Ma'am, I'm not comparing. Ma'am, I'm not comparing anybody with anybody. I'm just saying, I'm just counting the names of the women minister which are there in Narendra Modi cabinet. Nothing more, nothing less.
Everywhere.
Exactly.
Everywhere.
So I think, right now, the jury is still out whether, whether it will be announced tomorrow, day after tomorrow. But I don't think this session is going to be extended. This I'm very sure of. The session is going to be within its the time which has been decided. But then, yes, I am definitely sure that the pomp and show which has been decided for tomorrow, I don't think there will be any time for the discussion of any bill, because the Prime Minister is going to walk across from the old Parliament to the new Parliament. All the MPs are going to follow him. That there's going to be a photo op from, I think, starting from 9:50, 9:30 onwards.
9:30 there's going to be a photo op.
From
Then the
Central
Prime
Hall,
Minister will go holding the
across.
Constitution
Yes.
in his book. All the members will follow
the
him.
pageantry, the pomp and show. Then, I think 1:15 in Lok Sabha, 2:15 in Rajya Sabha. The houses are going to meet. Then you will have speeches there. So I think tomorrow is going to be the day about the Parliament, both houses of Parliament, which leaves another 3 days. I don't know what the government will do. I think the element of surprise remains with the government. I would definitely love that the Women Reservation Bill becomes a reality and more power is transferred to women, not as a matter of gesture, but in terms of real transactional nature of power. The way men exercise it, so should women get to exercise it, because it's neutral in nature. But then it entirely depends, for me as a journalist, how it is passed. I think that is more important in context of functioning of Indian Parliament, because that has been at the heart of debate, that how Parliament has been functioning of late. So if Women Reservation Bill can bring that change, beautiful, wonderful. If it doesn't, then it becomes part of many other bills, the way they have been rammed through the Parliament, even if they're historic in nature. Thank you all of you for taking time out for my show To The Point. Thank you, Smita. Thank you, Pankaj. Thank you, Brijesh. Thank you.
इंजीनियरिंग कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि सभी लोग कर रहे हैं.
Coaching is now starting from grade 3, 4, 5, 6.
कोटा जाने वाली बीच राह में आधे टेस्ट देके हैं.